cigarettes curling, smoking his political trap. Michael Vass roars through the screen, he flies, painting red and blue skies with his fiery cry. He's the world's watchdog, calling out the bluff. Right-wing swagger, but his heart's pretty tough. He's a Republican dragon with his truthful slight, fights the battles unseen in the shadows of the night. From policy to passion, he breaks it all down, giving a voice to the voiceless, wearing his crown. Caffeine-fueled mornings, the smoke curls dance, Puppy at his feet, giving life one more chance. Through algorithms and bias, he cuts straight and clear. Michael's roar echoes in the hemisphere. Michael Vass roars through the screen, he flies, painting red and blue skies with his fiery cry. He's the world's watchdog, calling out the bluff. Right-wing swagger, but his heart's pretty tough. No soundbites allowed is his ultimate creed. A dragon's perspective where facts are the seed. Standing tall on his battlefield of thoughts, guarding the truth that others forgot. Michael Vass roars through the screen, he flies, painting red and blue skies with his fiery cry. He's the world's watchdog, calling out the bluff. Right-wing swagger, but his heart's pretty tough.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me. It is Wednesday night, and that is October 22nd of 2025. It's currently 8:17. I'm a little bit late tonight, but that's because a little bit different of a show. Again, my good friend Frank Johnson over at the Range Report, he was a little tied up today. He's been working on his very big Alpha Challenge. He's been working on that program, so he wasn't able to make it today, and it's just been a crazy, hectic day for me. I mean, literally the last hour, I've been listening to my good friend Larry Sharpe, who is being interviewed by Matthew J. from the Matthew J. Show. You may recall I was with him on Friday, Matthew J., and he interviewed me. He was interviewing Larry Sharpe today for his governor's run in 2026. So I was watching that. That just finished. And I've been also, at the same time, watching the New York City Mayoral Debate with Curtis Lewa and Andrew Cuomo and Zohar Mamdani. So I was watching both simultaneously, which is a little bit crazy. A little bit crazy there. And I'm going to go over to the live stream. They're still debating as we speak. I think they have about 10 minutes left. And I want to talk about that a little bit. The first hour of this debate has been almost entirely a repeat of the NBC debate. Matter of fact, let me bring this up while we're talking about it, give you guys a little bit of an idea of what we're talking about. Now, this is coming from New York One Spectrum News. They have the actual live stream of the event. And as you can see, it's going on right now. I have the volume down. I have it just on the comments. And I'm going to pull up a couple of moments in this. But right now they're talking about Rikers Island. And it's one of the few points that they're talking about that's actually different than the NBC debate. I mean, they were retreading almost all of the ground that NBC did in their debate. Now, I will say the moderators tonight are much, much more professional. They are far more in control of the event. They seem to be getting the questions out there and they're getting answered. But other than the fact that we're getting a more stable and professional debate than the first debate we saw with NBC News, it's not given us a lot of new information. And I have to tell you, Rikers Island isn't one of the top issues in New York City. It's really, it is an issue, but it's not one of the top issues for this election. It's not on the radar. I've talked to many people. I live in the Bronx. I've talked to many people in the Bronx, in my community, and I've talked to other people in the region. No one's talking about Rikers Island. No one cares. No one cares about Rikers Island. It is so low on the priority list. It is important to activists, to Democrat progressive activists. They care about Rikers Island. They are very upset about that. They're a minority, a very vocal minority. But why are we talking about this in the debate? New York State is losing, New York City is losing billions of dollars. We're in that much debt. We have crime, which is a significant and serious issue. And we know that immigration is a serious and consistent pressure on the system, and that is a serious issue. The subway system is a serious issue. Our infrastructure crumbling is a serious issue. Housing is a serious issue. And mind you, these are all questions basically asked by NBC. No one cares about Rikers Island. But this is where in the last 20 minutes of the debate, that's where they're being a little bit different. Let me put up the volume. Let's hear what they're saying right now.
Starting with Mr. Cuomo in this case, would you abide by and make others abide by Local Law 97 as it stands?
As it stands, you're going to have to be flexible in the application. What's going to happen now is many companies will just pay the fine because it's cheaper than actually following the rules. And
it's a climate question. If you notice, he started off, he had no idea what he was talking about. He had to remember, what is this bill, so that he could actually speak about it. Because again, not a top issue for the people of New York. Donors don't care about this. The average rank and file voter, whether a Democrat or Republican or even third party, no one cares about this. No one's worried about the climate penalties that are being imposed by Kathy Hochul and the Assembly, the single party rule of Democrats. That it's one of their pet projects, but it's not a public issue. You haven't heard any of the news media really talking about this. What's Mandami say?
To pay the fine than to actually comply with this legislation. We have to ensure that we make it easier for condo and co-op owners to follow these laws, and we do that by eliminating the application fees for J51, by extending that tax credit, by also creating a one-stop shop in New York City government that procures at a large scale heat pumps and the very...
So this is about heating your home. It's about the stoves. It's about climate change. And of course, Mandami's in favor of it, but New York State is one of the most eco-friendly locations on the entire planet.
Them to landlords and other buildings for free, is that accurate?
No, it's to actually ensure that they can afford the cost of these things by purchasing using an economy of scale.
Thank you, Mr. Sliwa.
I'm the only one on this stage totally opposed to Local 97. 100,000 condo and co-op owners. Their maintenance fees will go up 30%. They won't have enough reserve fees. You're going to see massive flight from the co-ops and condos. Now, they want to electrify everything. Well, there's a man on the stage who took Indian Point offline. That was 20.
Okay, and this is a little bit of a point from the first race, but also something that's very important about that, not just the nuclear aspect of it, which is correct. Andrew Cuomo did shut down Indian Point. That did put New York into a deficit. But also, if you ask New York State's Department of Energy about the need for energy, electricity, they will tell you that by 2035, New York State will need approximately an additional 7 to 10% energy, electricity generation, and they have no idea where it's going to come from. It's not going to come from renewable energy. They've already factored that in. They've already factored in wind. They have no idea. They know that everyone's being forced to electric as of 2030. They know that the need for electricity is continuing to grow, and they know they will run short, but they have no idea where they're going to get it from. So this is a big problem. And we are being joined by Dal. Hey, Dal, let me know if you want to jump in. I can send you the link. Dal says they're losing billions of dollars and in line to lose more if either Cuomo or Mondami ascend to mayorship. I know we are losing, and we're going to lose a lot more. We really will. And I see there's a comment here from Joel. I dislike hearing Cuomo speak. I feel like he imagines second graders will be reciting his words 40 years from now. He is out of his mind if he thinks that. The only thing that Andrew Cuomo will be known for is his disgraceful time in office, how he killed 16,000 people, how he was one of the individuals targeted because of Me Too, and it would seem correctly for 13 sexual assaults. And that's a big deal. Let me take a look. Oh, now they're going to talk about the economy. This thing's scheduled to end in about 4 minutes or so. And now they're talking about the economy.
Pay every employee
minimum
this
wage
amount, especially when the city currently doesn't mandate that figure for its own public employees. And I have separate questions for Mr. Sliwa and Mr. Cuomo.
So this would be something where the city would have to start doing so as well, because any law that we want New Yorkers to follow, the city should be following it itself. And the reason that we put forward $30 by 2030 is that that's the minimum that a New Yorker needs to be paid to be able to afford to live in this city. And what we are looking at right now is the possibility of the place that we know and love becoming a museum of where working class.
The $15 an hour minimum wage failed in New York City already. It already costs people money. Literally, we increased the minimum wage, $15 an hour, and people got fired and had their hours cut. It is actually a failure, and now he wants to make it $30, so even more people will be fired and even more people will have their hours cut. He's out of his mind. It sounds good. It sounds like you're going to make a lot of money. It doesn't work.
To raise the salaries of workers in New York City. We'll start with you, Mr. Sliwa.
First off, Zohran Mondami deals with fantasy, not reality.
True.
Look at all the Uber drivers. Look at all the taxi drivers, the Lyft drivers. They will now have driverless cars. That's what they're pushing. AI that's going to be wiping out so many jobs, especially for young men and women who went to school, got their 4 years of college, 2-year degree, and they're making $155,000, and then they get wiped out. You know what the corporate sector is going to do. They're going to bring in robotics.
Yes.
Zoran, stop dealing with fantasy and start dealing with reality. You're pushing businesses out because you want to tax them. I'm the only one here who wants to. Okay,
so he is right. And we have seen this in California in particular, where we had over 20,000 workers who were fired because of the $20 minimum wage. Again, Zohran Mondami wants to do 30. That's ridiculous. And yes, we did see the move towards automation, and whether it's at McDonald's or anything else. So he makes a good point.
I half agree with Curtis. Zoran does have socialist theory colliding with practical reality. I went through this. We raised the minimum wage to the highest in the United States of America.
No.
New York set the bar.
No.
We set it at $15.
That's not
Every other
true.
state
It
said
wasn't the high.
That's crazy when we did it. People in the state said that was crazy when we.
It was crazy because it did fail as it was predicted to do. And we saw that Portland and Oregon and I believe Washington State all beat New York to raising the income to 15. So Cuomo's lying to the public right there.
If you raise it to too high, you do two things. People lose their jobs.
They already did.
Up the businesses. You're talking about basically doubling payroll. And you can have a negative effect where literally businesses close and people lose their jobs.
That already happened at $15.
And overall, again, it's another tax on corporations, another reason to leave.
And they did leave New York, and even more of them will leave. So Cuomo's not wrong.
And go to South Carolina.
Mind you, Cuomo was promising during the primary that he would do a $25 an hour minimum wage, which is the same thing as 30. There is no difference.
Going to go over by 5 minutes, and we're going to have Brian lead a conversation about transit.
Right, and we're going to have to do this very briefly to each of you because you each have transit things to answer to. Mr. Cuomo, you say the city should take partial control of New York City transit away from the MTA, which is mostly controlled by the state. Would the city then have to foot more of the bill? And if this is a good idea, why didn't you propose it as governor?
Good
point.
The capital, first of all, New York City owns the New York City Transit Authority.
No, we do not.
Not the MTA. It leases the trains and subways to the MTA. And then the question is the division of responsibility. New York City does the safety along with the MTA. The problem the MTA is having is the capital construction projects. It has been an ongoing problem. I came in, I took over Moynihan and finished it. I came in and took over 2nd Avenue Subway, the L train tunnel. The capital construction projects are way overdue.
Would it fall more on the city to pay?
I would say, no, there is a budget set. My only point is the MTA, which is a labyrinth bureaucracy set up by Rockefeller, which should have never been done in the first place.
It was so bureaucratic that he did not change the system. He didn't fix the system. He's going to keep the system in place.
Capital construction from the MTA budget.
Mr. Mamdani, make your case briefly for your proposal for free buses for everybody.
That policy, we've already covered it. It doesn't work. It came from Kansas City. It failed there. It's going to fail in New York. Everyone understands that. It is very clear. But again, talking about Andrew Cuomo, he was correctly confronted. Cuomo could have fixed the system. He could have fixed the bureaucracy. He didn't because it helped his donors and it made his friends happy. It wasn't for the public. And it is a massive mess. He's talking about the 2nd Avenue, which has been worked on for well over a decade, the L train, well over a decade. Andrew Cuomo has not done anything to help people. His time as governor was a problem, not a benefit. But there you go.
Own car or take a taxi and would instead get on the bus. And I know all of this because I delivered it as a state.
Rich people do not take the bus. Rich people do not take the subway. They get an Uber or a black car.
Transit safety, but nothing on transit service. Do you have any core proposals for improving it?
Oh, sure. First off, Zoran, I get a good belly laugh.
Zoran, bro.
Oh, all right. I'll keep practicing.
I got you.
I get a good belly laugh every time I hear you say free fare in the subways. Half the people don't pay anyway. How about fair enforcement? I'm the only one who says we have all kinds of fare programs for the indigent and the poor. But if you don't pay your fare, there needs to be enforcement. And by the way, I've taken the subway almost every day of my life since I was 5.
Yesterday, I was on actually the bus going to Lehman College, where I was interviewed by the Backroom TV, 2nd time this year. And yeah, nobody paid. When I got on the bus, hour-long trip through the Bronx, and not one person paid. Not one person paid to get on that bus. That was the 28 bus.
And by the way, we can get more people to voluntarily actually sponsor their subway system stations, clean it up, and beautify them, and add some life so the community has input into the subway that they have to go through the sleaze and...
I mean, beautification. Politicians love to go to beautification because it makes people feel nice, but that doesn't really help a lot. It's not a terrible thing. If you're paying attention to your subway system, you're making it look beautiful, then maybe it feels like it's going to be a better place, but and there may be less crime, but that's not a one-to-one.
Mr. Mamdani.
My only focus is on November.
Mr. Cuomo.
I haven't thought it through.
Okay. We have a city of hundreds of languages and cultures. Can you greet New Yorkers in a language other than your own? Mr. Cuomo.
Ciao. Buenos dias.
Really?
Ni hao with a pangyo.
That's horrible.
Okay.
That's horrible.
Buona fortuna per cende anni.
Okay. Have you decided on a school's chancellor, Mr. Sliwa?
Yes, I would ask Bob Holden, who's taught 40 years. He leads Democrats for Sliwa.
Okay. Mr. Mamdani.
No, I haven't decided on a chancellor as yet.
No. Okay. Should people be arrested for the solicitation of sex, Mr. Sliwa?
No.
Yes.
The Johns,
Yes.
yes. The pimps, the madams, and the absentee landlords.
Prostitution.
Okay. Mr. Mamdani.
No.
Mr. Cuomo.
Zoran's decriminalization for prostitutes, johns, and pimps would be a disaster on the quality of life in
They
New
should be
York City.
arrested, you say? Should people be arrested for soliciting sex?
It is a criminal offense. I would keep it as it is.
Okay. Last question. Can you name one thing that New York got right during the COVID crisis, Mr. Sliwa?
No.
New York got right.
No.
Oh, wow. He didn't get anything right during the COVID crisis. No.
Mr. Mamdani.
It only took me 15 minutes to get my vaccine shot when I went for that, and that was an efficient experience.
Mr. Cuomo.
Thank you for the compliment.
That was a city-run vaccine.
All right,
No,
gentlemen.
it wasn't.
Thanks so much, gentlemen. That is going to do
You still
it
have to learn, son.
Okay, so now they're going to talk about whatever. But I think it's interesting. We got almost nothing new in this debate. I mean, almost nothing. Yeah, the prostitution, that was talked about with NBC. So we heard that with NBC in the last debate. It was brought up. There it is. So we have some of the questions in here. I think I have it locked up already. But it was very disappointing. This debate was very disappointing. We had, as I mentioned, and I need my glasses. Here they are. Okay. So most of the questions for the first hour, solidly for the first hour, they were just repeat questions. They were just, once again, almost everything. I mean, almost every change in the format, almost all the new questions that happened when we were on. That's been the last 20 minutes. Together, we were listening to that. And it really wasn't significant. It really wasn't impactful. We didn't hear anyone talking about the lithium battery plants and the impact when they were talking about energy, when they were talking about trying to go to renewable energy and whether or not they would increase the cost of electricity, especially for homeowners and the condo owners in New York, forcing people to switch to electric stoves rather than having the gas fires, so rather than having choice, a mandate. This is a mandate of government micromanaging individuals' lives. And I like that Curtis Sliwa said, no, he's against that. And the other two were like, sure, that's a great idea. The government should micromanage your life. And again, the New York State and New York City have no idea where they're going to get all the electricity they need for all these changes. They know it's going to increase costs. They know it's going to force people out of this city. They're going to force them out of New York State. That we're going to lose people who are going to either sell or just give up on their properties rather than pay these extra costs that they really can't afford. And they'll go somewhere like North Carolina or Florida or Texas or Tennessee, where they don't have to have all these extra costs and they don't have government that's micromanaging your individual life. But that's the difference between Democrats, even the progressives, even the Democratic Socialists of America, and Republicans. So that's one of the few questions, and I really found it interesting because they finally addressed, and I noticed they put it at the very end and they rushed through the minimum wage question because the news media didn't want you to focus on it. They don't want people to stop and actually think about, hey, we did a $15 minimum wage, as Andrew Cuomo alluded to, and he tried to take credit for having the highest minimum wage in the nation. It wasn't. Other states had already done it before us. So he's wrong. And it wasn't the highest amount. Again, other states had the exact same $15 minimum wage. I did videos on this at the time. And I also presented people with the Congressional Budget Office report 3 reports on raising the minimum wage to the $15 amount that Andrew Cuomo put in place, which was initially 12 for upstate, 15 for downstate, and here in New York City. And that system did not work. And it cost people jobs, and it increased the cost of goods. It made poor people even more poor. And that's why they rushed through that section. They rushed through that because they didn't want people to actually think about the math or to remember how effective that has been. Zohran Mamdani's like, it costs $30 to be in New York City. Maybe it does, but you're not going to get that as a minimum wage. And if you do that as a minimum wage, it's the same exact argument that was made at the 15. And guess what? If you're saying minimum wage just to barely get by would be $30 an hour, why not 50? Why not 100? I mean, seriously, why not $50 an hour? Why not $100 an hour? So not only are you, if it's so good and it's going to be so effective and it's going to be so great for everyone, why not do $50 an hour? Why not give people not just the minimum it takes to live in New York City, but give them a little bit of cushion, an extra $20 an hour? That gives them the ability to not just make the minimum survival in New York, but also have a bit more, what sometimes is called the living wage. But he said 30 because 50 sounds ridiculous. And people would look at the math and they would look at the impact and they would see the consequences, and it wouldn't work. It doesn't, no matter how much free stuff you want to sell people, they're going to look at it and go, that's just a gimmick. That doesn't work. And they would be right. So Zohran is out of his mind. And again, Curtis Lee was said, no, that's stupid. That's, again, government micromanaging individual lives, and it doesn't work. It's not effective for people. So that's very aggravating. Shelley has a comment here for us. Now, mind you, folks, before I get to your comment, Shelley, if you were watching this debate and you thought there was a big difference than what we saw in the first debate, please let me know. If you think the $50, $30, $50 minimum wage, if you think that's a great idea, please tell me why you think it's a great idea. Tell me why the math doesn't matter. Tell me why the empirical data that we have seen across this country, everywhere the artificial minimum wage has been done, it has resulted in abject failure. Please tell me why at $30 it would be more successful than at $20 or at $15. Please tell me how that works out, because it hasn't worked so far. Please tell me where that would be different. But Shelley says, their electricity used to come solely from Gilboa, New York. Yeah, that's Indian Point. Their water supply is from upstate as well. Yes, New York City's water supply, a large amount of it does come from upstate as well. If Cuomo or Mamdani get in office, it will negatively impact the entire state. Well, yes, New York City is the primary engine of taxes and business in the state of New York. And if people continue to leave, we're already seeing this upstate. Mass exodus, 200,000 people a year, 300,000, some estimate, I estimate 300,000 people are leaving New York State every year for the last more than a decade. And that it was really started under the Cuomo administration. Remember in 2013 when Andrew Cuomo told the New Yorkers for the entire state, if you believed in God, if you believed in religion, if you believed in the Second Amendment, if you were a Republican, get out the state. We heard Kathy Hochul, after Cuomo was kicked out, Kathy Hochul, who came in as governor, basically parroted that same thing, saying that if you are conservative, get out the state. And they did. And we're losing $20 billion in tax revenue from small businesses and property taxes. We're losing that every single year under Cuomo and under Kathy Hochul. I don't know how they think they're going to do any better for people going forward when their policies are failing. We are number one for a decade. We are the number one state for people to leave New York's residents, citizens are leaving New York State more than any other state. California is losing people. Illinois is losing people. All of the bluer than blue Democrat strongholds are losing people. But New York is the highest rate. It's New York, then California, then New Jersey. Those are the top three states. People are leaving because the infrastructure, the taxes, the regulations, the government micromanagement is so extreme, no one wants to live here anymore. That's just a fact. So you're right, Shelley. You're very much right. What's this? Did I? Oops. Okay, I'm being corrected. Indian Point is in the Adirondacks. Gilboa is in the Catskills. Well, I remember them both being in the mountains. I stand corrected, though. Thank you, Shelley, for correcting me. I am not above being corrected, and I thank you for being in the audience to correct me, because I was thinking the Adirondacks and the Catskills, I'm thinking mountains, and I'm thinking of them as being essentially the same, but that isn't correct. And you are right, Shelley. Indian Point and Gilboa are two different areas. So thank you for that correction. You know what? I admit when I'm wrong. I admit when, especially when chat corrects me, I have no problem being corrected. And that's why I say, if you disagree with me, tell me why. If I've misunderstood the information, then no problem. Correct me. I am happy to be corrected if I can be corrected. But I can tell you on terms of the minimum wage, we're talking about the climate change. I know the numbers. I know the data. New York State is more climate, well, I can't say climate friendly, but greenhouse gas. We've corrected greenhouse gases more than most nations in the world. New York State is one of the leaders. New York City is one of the leading areas on greenhouse gas reduction over in the entire world, and other nations. Some nations combined can't equal the amount of reductions in greenhouse gases that New York City and or New York State, again, and or New York State have done, and they want even more. And they want you to suffer because they want higher costs. This is going back to Obama's idea that he wants to necessarily skyrocket energy costs. Do you remember that? I know the news media don't want you to remember that. That was his big idea when he got elected as president, that he wanted to necessarily skyrocket electricity so that you would be forced to use less electricity. Well, that idea, they just changed the wording. It's the same plan. It is the same progressive idea that what we're going to see with this bill 97, you're going to see the costs skyrocket, and people will be necessarily forced to use less electricity because they can't afford the bill. But along with that, people will just move, because the answer is, well, rather than have this ever increasing cost and the fact that we're going to have brownouts and blackouts because we don't have enough electricity, even if you cut back your electricity costs, usage, we're still going to have brownouts and or blackouts. So people are just going to leave. They'll just go to Tennessee. It's cheaper there. They'll go to Texas or to Florida or to North Carolina. It's cheaper and it will cost less. And you can use the same amount or more electricity and still, matter of fact, you can use even more electricity and still save money than what you're seeing in New York City and in New York State. So there's a couple of problems there. Now, let's see. Joel says, New York is predicting an electric shortfall by the summer of 2026 for Long Island and Con Ed areas. Yes, but what I'm talking about is the Department of Energy for New York State has a plan, a chart of the amount of consumption of electricity, this is statewide. And we know that as we get closer to 2035, there is a known fact that we will not be able to have enough electricity. You can go to the Department of Energy right now for New York State. You can ask them. It's been charted out. It's been graphed. So even with, it's not just there will be shortages. I'm talking about there will be none. We know this. They cannot have enough electricity. It's not even, it'll be tight or we'll be short. No, there won't be enough, period. You will see blackouts. You will see it. We may have brownouts starting in New York City and that region about 2026 and moving and escalating. But we know for the state, the entire state, there will be blackouts by 2035. That's just a fact. And yes, that includes all green energy. That includes all the solar. That includes all the wind that has been built and has been planned to be built. They've already factored that in. We do not have enough. Let's see here. Shelley goes and say, if business owners cannot afford the set wage, they will go under. We've already seen that. That's already happened in New York. That's just fact. It's already happened in California. It's already happened in Portland. It's already happened in Colorado. We've everywhere they've done this, we have seen consistently every single time people will be fired, their hours will be cut, but they'll get the increase in minimum wage. And it does not work out. It's thus far, the math has been based on a $15 minimum wage. The workers make 9% less money on the higher minimum wage than they were making beforehand. So you would have a lower minimum wage and you would make more money. You would take home more money. So it's going to fail. It's a horrible, horrible situation. Dow says, Hochul has proclaimed she wanted to reopen Indian Point because there are federal funds available for nuclear power for data centers. She saw dollar signs in her push for an AI home run. Anytime politicians tell you that they have a home run, it will fail. Every single time. New York State, hemp, it's going to be a home run. Complete failure. Drone testing sites, that's going to be a home run. Complete failure. We're going to make New York State Hollywood East Coast. The Hollywood East Coast is going to be New York State, and we're going to have our own little Hollywood. And we built movie studios, and we sold it for $1. We sold the movie studios built to bring Hollywood to the East Coast for $1 under Andrew Cuomo. Complete failure. Absolute abject failure. Every time they tell you it's a home run, it is an abject, absolute failure. And the only people who will make money are donors to the Democratic Party who are getting paid off of some grant, some kind of study. They get paid and everyone else just loses money. It hurts everyone. Every single time. Let's see. Dow goes on to say, Kathy Hochul's more environmentally rabid base was nearby and was nearly ready to crucify her. Yeah, because she wanted to get those nuclear power plants on. It's going to happen. I can tell you right now, doesn't matter who becomes governor before 2035, they will reopen a nuclear power plant in New York, because if they don't, we will see blackouts. And New York City, more than New York State, New York City cannot survive if there were random blackouts going on. It would be bad for upstate, but New York City, you're talking about people stuck in the subway system. You're talking about people unable to cross bridges because of vehicles failing. You're talking about the more electric vehicles we have, the more likely it is that those vehicles will run out of battery and just be stuck in the middle of roads. You're talking about people not being able to cook their meals. They won't be able to heat their houses or have air conditioning. New York City and the amount of crime that we're talking about. I remember when the entire East Coast, I think it was like 1986, 1987, where we had the East Coast, New York, East Coast United States had the blackout. It was in the late 80s. I think it was 86, might have been 87. And we had a complete blackout of the East Coast. And crime skyrocketed instantly. And many people I know, like in where I am, my apartment building in the Bronx, all of the men came out as the sun was setting, and we were standing on the entrance of our building, which had a little bit of a foyer, and we were standing in front of the doors of our apartment building, the young men, 30 and under, 30 to about 18. I was about 18 at the time. We're all standing out in front with baseball bats because that was the only way to protect the building. Because in the projects nearby, gangs were going door to door in the middle. As soon as the sun went down, they were going door to door, busting down doors, going into people's houses and stealing their stuff. And people couldn't get to the police, and the police couldn't get to you. You couldn't call the police. You didn't have electricity. You weren't able to notify anyone. And even if you could, all of the street lights were out. The police were trying to cover every business. They were trying to cover residential property. They were overwhelmed. They couldn't get everywhere they needed to be. So you would just get robbed. It was a very dangerous situation. We cannot have blackouts in New York City. We will see nuclear power come back. Just like in Germany, they're talking right now, they're going to bring back nuclear power because tried to do the eco-fanatic thing of getting rid of all their nuclear power plants did not work. It has not been a boon for Germany. It hasn't been good for France. Nowhere that they've done this idea, it hasn't worked. Just hasn't worked. All right, we got a lot of comments here. Oh, hey, Andrew's here too. Andrew says, there was a second one, or was this over the weekend? No, Andrew, it was today. It was just about, as I started the show today, it was still going on. So it was just over the last hour or so. Yes, it was. But to be fair, if you were watching it, if you saw the first debate, you really didn't get a lot of new information. It was more organized. It was more, the moderators were in more control than the NBC debate, but it really wasn't that good or that different. One of the things that I did find that was kind of interesting was Andrew Cuomo had said at one point during the debate that it was the bureaucracy line. It was his line about bureaucracy that I believe he was referring to the lockdowns 2020, and that he was managing bureaucracy, and he's the one with the most experience in dealing with bureaucracy, whether it's the MTA or whether it's dealing with the medications, the healthcare. He's the one who can deal with all the paperwork. Well, again, he didn't fix any of that. He didn't fix the MTA. He didn't shrink the size of government. He didn't get rid of the redundancy of people just pushing papers forever just because that's what they do. He didn't get rid of the red tape and the bureaucracy. He increased it. So he's like, oh, I'm good with red tape. You made it worse. And Zoran Mandami has no answer for this. Zoran Mandami said that he didn't have a superintendent for the school systems. Andrew Cuomo had someone in mind for the school systems. Curtis Sliwa had someone that he named. Absolutely, he has someone for the school system. Mandami doesn't. Because here's the thing that no one really thinks about. The DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, the progressives, are a sliver of the Democratic Party. Just a very tiny sliver, and they're even less of a sliver of the entire nation. So he they don't have enough people to fill New York City's various political positions. They don't have enough people. They can't fill all the jobs and all the slots that normally the Republican or the Democrat would be able to fill. So because they don't have enough people in the DSA, they're going to have to just go back to anyone who is helping Andrew Cuomo, the traditional Democratic DNC. They're going to go to them, and they're just going to take their people and fill in the majority of the positions in New York City. So it's going to feel very much like any other Democrat won. And there'll be people from Eric Adams that will continue to stay, like the police chief will stay and continue in their position. You're not going to see a difference. Yes, Mondami is a progressive, and he'll have one or two other progressives along with him, and they'll talk about their progressive ideology as it fails. But everyone else, all of the functional people, the people who make the day-to-day decisions, who actually deal with the paperwork, they're all going to be Democrats, not progressives. They will be Democrats. So the Democrats don't care. The real control over New York are those bureaucratic people that actually make things continue to go. And that's Democratic control. It's still going to be single party rule in New York. Let me see here. So thank you for that. Thank you, Shelley. You also remind me, the casinos. Yes, the casinos were supposed to be yet another one of those wonderful home runs that were going to take care of all of the problems. They would lower taxes for everyone across this state. Proposition 1. And if you go back and you can check on my website, you can check on both No Soundbites Allowed on YouTube and on Rumble, and you will see me tell everyone I did a video on Proposition 1. And I stated very, very clearly that the casinos were going to fail. Because how do casinos make money? They take money out of their community, and people in that community gets poorer and poorer because casinos take money out of the community. They don't give it back. And now they're trying to, and I know Mondami and Cuomo, they want to have a casino in New York City. That will not help New York City make money. That will be taking money out of everything else. The gamblers, the people who are addicted to gambling, they'll put their money in, but that money is money they would have used to go to a restaurant, to go to a play, to see a movie, to improve their home, to get an apartment. They're going to be taking money from things that are essential, and they're going to put it into the casino, and they're going to have nothing come back from that. There will be no positive. It will drain the economy, just like it's done everywhere else in New York State. It is a failed idea. And they're going to say, but it's going to bring in jobs. Some jobs. And it's going to also increase poverty. And that's worse. You'll have more people on poverty with a casino in New York City, just like we saw across New York State. Everywhere there's a casino, poverty increased, crime increased. Nobody's making money. That's just a fact. Thank you for that. Let me see here. Kaiwan is with us, and Kaiwan says, businesses are low enough in New York that they need to keep old buildings old and not renew anything unless you got to fix something in the pipe. Okay. Yeah, they have completely corrupted the entire system. That's true. That is very, very true. So I do not disagree with you there. Now, if you're joining me and you've made it this far in, please, I hope you like, share, subscribe. That is important. It helps me to keep this show alive, helps to get everything done. It is vital. We're trying to get to 5,000-10,000 people so that we can do an interview with some of these candidates and individuals. And I'm going to talk about, I believe, next weekend, I do expect to be able to have the New York State governor candidate, Larry Sharpe, I will be doing an interview with him. Now, even though we're not at 5,000 to 10,000 subscribers, I mean, tonight he was just on with Matthew J, and I'll talk about that in a moment, where he had Matthew J has over 65,000 subscribers. Yesterday, Tuesday, Larry Sharpe was interviewed by Sabby Sabs, who's on the far left side of things, and she has 250,000 subscribers. He announced that he was running for governor on Kim Iverson. She has 650,000 subscribers. So the more subscribers you have, the easier it is to talk to these politicians and say, show up on my program. One of the reasons, even though I've been out on the public, out and about, and met Curtis Sliwa 4 times this year, and I've done interviews with him on location at various events 4 times this year, I can't get him to sit down with me to do a one-on-one interview because I don't have 5,000, 10,000 subscribers. If I did, his team would make sure that we would have already done the interview. So please hit that like, that share, most of all, importantly, that subscribe. It makes a big difference. And if you can, I would really appreciate, do me a favor. If you want to join my Patreon, it's $1.50 a month. It would help to support this channel. I would appreciate it. You can always do a super chat or a Rumble rant, and I would appreciate that as well. It would really make a big difference. So I'm looking forward to that. And I know Shelly says she's glad to hear that I'm going to be talking with Larry. Yeah, it'll be for people who don't know. And I'll talk about Larry Sharpe in a moment. I wanted to also bring up something that I think is also important. So we talked a little bit, and by the way, folks, in the chat, or if you're watching this and it's not live, I really want to hear if you saw the second New York debate. What did you think? Was it anything really different than the first debate between Mandami and Cuomo and Sliwa? Sliwa was more energetic. Absolutely. He was much more energetic than the first debate. He was more fired up. He was more on point. He was more aggressive. But what other than that's more cosmetic? His policies were the same. He had the same answers about the policies. They still made sense. He still had the best policies. But that's not new. We knew that from the first debate. Nothing really changed in that end. But I want to hear what you think. Let's rate it out of a scale of 1 to 10. What did you think of the second debate? I was watching it, and again, I was watching that as I was also listening to Larry Sharpe's interview with Matthew J. I'd say it was about a 6. As debates go, I felt it was like a 6, mostly because we were repeating a lot of information and nothing new was being discussed. Really, so many other issues that are important to New Yorkers never were addressed. So I would only give it a 6, but I could be wrong. Now, that being said, I did also want to bring up something a little bit different. Before I go on, there was other news going on today. There's not a lot of news so far this week, but there was the news that, and we heard this from the Guardian and many on the left, the White House East Wing will be torn down. They're tearing down the East Wing of the White House. Trump is destroying the White House, or at least that's what the left wants you to think. That's what the left is saying about what's happening. That's not correct, because it isn't the White House. Notice they're showing you a very unique angle of the White House. You see, what they're not showing you and what you can't see here in this image, and I'm going to try and make it a bit bigger. See, because of this angle, you're not seeing that the rest of the White House is over here. The majority of the White House, overwhelmingly, the majority of the White House is not being affected. I thought I had a top-down image of this. But this is just it's almost like a driveway. This is the part of the driveway of the east wing of the White House. The building, the White House, where you see, where you see most of the business of the country take place, the Oval Office and such, nowhere near where the construction's being done. This isn't interrupting the government, and it's not destroying the White House. The British in 1812 burned down the White House. That was destroying it. And most people don't remember. That's why we have the 1812 overture. It's about the White House being burned down. And that was a war with England. And so that it's not that the White House has never been destroyed before. Every president gets in and they get to change the White House to varying degrees. But the White House itself, this is, by the way, you're looking at this from the side view. So in this image, we're looking at it from the side view. And what you're seeing here is this portion with the columns. See that right there? That's what's actually being destroyed. That's what's being knocked down. This little awning where the driveway is, and we often see people enter the White House to get in and to walk towards the Oval Office. That's a driveway right here in front of it. As you can see, just follow the cursor. This is a driveway that wraps around. Cars come in, they come out, they enter the White House building there. So this whole portion right here, that's an awning. That's a driveway. That's not the White House. That's a driveway. And the left are losing their minds trying to convince people Donald Trump's destroying the White House. No, he's not. Yes, he is expanding the White House. He's not destroying it. It's called reconstruction, not destruction. There's a big difference between the two. He's not just destroying the White House and it's just going to be a pile of rubble. He's doing redevelopment. He's expanding it. It's called construction. But the left wants you to be panicky. They want you to freak out. They're going to use whatever words it takes to make people scared. And I just wanted to point that out, that they're lying to you. Because this is going to be torn down with days. There's no plans. He's going to build a boulevard. It means no plans have been filed yet. Plans exist. And he's not destroying the White House, as I had already mentioned. So it's just really, it's dishonest. It's dishonest from the left. And they're doing that because they just want you to be afraid. They want you to vote Democrat in 2026 for the midterm elections. They have to demonize everything that is done by the White House. We're getting a ballroom, which we sorely and absolutely need. We're getting an expansion of the White House, and it's more modernized and more capable. And it's already been paid for. It's $200 million. It's already paid for. So it's not costing the taxpayer more. This is a good thing, but because it's Donald Trump and nothing that Trump does can be told to you as being a good thing, it has to be somehow evil or bad or scary or fearful. So they have to lie to you. And this is another way that they're lying to the public, which I find to be very upsetting. It's really insulting. But they don't care. They do not care. Let me see here. I also wanted to address, and then I'm going to get to the other part of the show about Larry Sharpe, but I thought it was also important to bring up news about the government shutdown. I don't know if everyone followed this, if everyone was aware, and this is going to CBS News. Again, we use almost entirely left-leaning news sources so that you can make up your mind. It's not my Republican bias. It's not my conservative bias. These are things that, again, the Guardian's showing you something, and you can see the bias in what they're putting out there. This is from CBS News. And I know Hakeem Jeffries would love to make you think that this is the government shutdown right now is the fault of Mike Johnson and Donald Trump, Republicans, MAGA, and they're lying to your face. Chuck Schumer keeps trying to attach this to Republicans that the government is shut down. He also is blaming Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, for the government being shut down and that Republicans aren't there. Let me make this real simple for everyone. The House had a vote on the budget, the continuing resolution, to be able to keep the government open at least until the beginning of 2026. So they were willing. It's been noted as a clean CR, a continuing resolution. This has nothing to do with pork barrel spending for Republicans, and Democrats want to put in pork barrel spending of an extra $1.5 trillion, which will make the poor even more poor. But they don't want to talk about it like that, so they keep trying to say, well, this is bad because of Republicans. Mike Johnson. The Republicans in the House voted almost unanimously to pass the clean resolution, to keep the government open. Democrats almost unanimously voted against. More Republicans than there are Democrats. The bill got passed and it went to the Senate. This is how our funding in our government has always gone. The House comes up with an idea, they pass it, they send it over to the Senate. The Senate says yes or no, and then we go and deal with the consequences from there. That's always the way it is. The House has done its job. Mike Johnson sent the Congress members, the members of the House of Representatives, sent them home. They don't have anything to do. You'll hear Hakeem Jeffries, you'll hear some of the pundits on CNN and MSNBC and ABC, and they'll tell you, oh, why did they send those Republicans home? How can we get anything done? The Republicans aren't there. No. The Republicans in the House of Representatives aren't there because they did their job. It's already done. They already voted, and they voted to open the government. They have nothing else to do with this. Now the bill is in the Senate. If the Senate votes for the continuing resolution, the government opens up, everything is good. Except Democrats keep voting 12 times now. 12 times Democrats have voted to keep the government shut down. That is a fact. It's not an opinion. It's not because I'm a Republican or MAGA. It is a numerical, empirical fact. Even CBS News has to admit this. And they did so right here. See, they don't mention, and the House Republicans didn't vote. They don't count. No one cares. The House Republicans, if you're talking about whether or not Mike Johnson sent the House of Representatives home, who cares? It's meaningless. They did their job. They're done. They have nothing to do with this anymore. And if you're saying, well, you don't understand how our government works, go back to elementary school, go back to Schoolhouse Rock, watch a few more episodes, because it's basic government. This is government 101. The House has nothing to do with it anymore. So don't say, and anyone tells you, well, it's about Mike Johnson, that's the Republicans, and they're not doing, that person has no idea what they're talking about. They have no idea what they're talking about. It is about, I jumped past. This is about the Senate. According to CBS News, they are telling you the 12th time that Republicans have put out a vote and asked the Democrats to open up the government, the 12th time so far this month. We're in day 22. So almost once every other day, we have seen the Republicans come out and try every other day trying to open up the government because it's on the Senate. And the Republicans are voting for it. We see that 51 Republicans and 3 members of Democrats, 3 Democrats, 51 Republicans have voted to open up the government. 45 Democrats and 1 Republican voted to keep the government closed. 45. We need, now you're saying, well, wait a minute, but they're over 50%. I thought everything, we're a majority. We're a democracy. Majority rules. No, that's a lie. We're not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic. And when it comes specifically to the budget and the continuing resolution, it's a vote of 60, not 50, because we're not a democracy. If we were a democracy, 51 votes, we're done. And Republicans have 54 votes. The government would be open if that were all that was needed. The Republicans would have kept the government open. We'd be talking about something entirely different. No, it's 60 votes. 60 votes so that we can reopen the government. And the Democrats, all but 3 of them, one of those, by the way, happens to be John Fetterman, who Democrats are trying to get rid of, because John Fetterman said, I want the government open so that his constituents can get paid. They can go to work and they can get paid, so that they get their SNAP benefits, so that they can get their, and I think that Trump's going to make sure people still get their SNAP benefits, their food stamps. They'll still be able to get that. Social Security will still be paid out. Trump's working that out. The military is still getting paid. Trump did work that out. But Fetterman said he wants everyone to get their federal funding. So he voted for it. And the Democrats said, you voted to help keep the government open. We're going to get rid of you. You got to go. You're off the reservation. You're not doing what the party told you to do. You're not obeying Chuck Schumer. You have to go. And so that's why Fetterman's going to get, we already know, Democrats are already shopping for some other Democrat that will be a party yes man or a yes woman, doesn't matter. They're going to get another yes person, someone who just do whatever the party says, a slave. And they're going to replace Fetterman with that, because he's part of, without Fetterman, it would be 53, but it's not. So even CBS will tell you, this isn't about the House of Representatives. It's not about Mike Johnson. It's not about Donald Trump. It's not about the Senate Republicans. It is purely and simply and singly about the Democrats. And when you look at the empirical math, you will see that. Not the lies, not the word salad that's being used by Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and a lot of the left-leaning news media. They keep trying to make it seem like, oh, it's so complicated, it's so difficult, and it's really about the Republicans and they're really screwing you over. No, they're not. In the House, the Republicans voted for it, and it got passed. The Republicans in the Senate are voting for it. The Democrats aren't. That's why it's shut down. It is a Democrat shutdown, and the Democrats don't care about you. They don't care about you. They want to have an advantage, a political advantage. They want money to help illegal aliens. They want money for their wish list of progressive ideas, and they want you to be poor. They don't care. It's sad. But I just wanted to highlight that even if you look at CBS, a obviously well-known, this is major left-wing news media, even they will show you the proof, because it's not about the House. It's not about Mike Johnson. It's not about the Republicans. So it's kind of sad. And I know I got some comments in there, so I'm going to take a look here. Let's see. Where do we leave off? Kaiwan says, Curtis really showed the authorities of both candidates as architect and socialist medical. Okay. Curtis pointed out that, according to Kaiwan, he noticed that, again, just like in the first debate, Curtis Sewell was pointing out how Andrew Cuomo and was the architect of the downturn of New York State. To be fair, the Democratic single party rule is the reason why New York State and New York City have been failing. And that has been happening since 1958. That's when we had 45 members of Congress for New York State. We had 45. We were one of the biggest states in the nation. We now have 26 because since 1958, every year people leave New York State because of Democratic single party rule. So most recently, part of the reason why we're losing 200,000 to 300,000 people a year, yes, that is Andrew Cuomo. That is true. And he is an architect of that mass exodus. That is also true, as Curtis Sliwa pointed out, as Mondami pointed out. But Mondami is just as bad. So yes, that's correct. Shelley says, the East Wing is where visitors enter, so there's a covered driveway. Yes. But they're telling you, if you're looking at the news media, oh my God, Donald Trump's destroying the East Wing. He's destroying they keep saying he's destroying the White House. He isn't. He's destroying, what has been torn down is the driveway of the East Wing. But they expect most people aren't paying attention to the details. And so when they say the White House, because technically it is true, part of the White House has been destroyed. Yeah, it's the driveway. It's the covered driveway. But they're lying to you because they want you to think of when we think of the White House, we think about the dome and the flag. We're thinking of the Oval Office, and people think that that's being destroyed. Why? Because most people don't think about it, and no one's thinking about the driveway. Because if I told you the driveway is being destroyed, you go, I don't care. Who cares? It's not a big deal. It's not important. But they're trying to make it into something. They're trying to make it seem like it's bad. And it's like most of the things where they say Orange Man bad, overwhelmingly, almost everything that the left blames Orange Man bad is really something that no one cares about or is not nearly as important as the left wants you to think it is. But that's that. Let me see. Dow says, the other freak out by the left to drive a wedge is the lie that he is using public funds for the construction. That Donald Trump is using public funds for the construction of the new ballroom. No, we got $200 million in donations. It costs the American people nothing. This is free. This is free money, or as close to free money as you get when you're talking about governments and public. It was $200 million, and people go, but it's corrupt. That's corrupt. It's private businesses. They donated. It's for Donald Trump. It's going in his pocket. It's $200 million to build a building that Donald Trump doesn't get to keep the keys. This isn't Donald Trump's building. It is the public's building. It is part of the White House, which is public property. This is the property of the United States government, not Donald Trump, not any of the donors. They don't get to have any of that. They donated for this, and they don't get anything for it. So you can't tell me, oh, well, Donald Trump's just embezzling. He's already worth billions. He doesn't need another 200 million. And this is money that went straight to the government. See, you always hear about Oprah and Bill Gates and Warren Buffett and Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar and all of the actors, Mark Ruffalo. They always complain about, oh, we need more taxes. We need to increase money. Notice none of them donated. None of them took their money and donated to build the ballroom that we need to update and upgrade the White House. None of them dropped their money. They didn't do it under Obama. They didn't do it under Biden. They didn't do it under Clinton. They didn't care. They don't donate any of their money to the government. They have billions. They don't actually pay for anything. They want you to pay more in taxes, and they keep their money. They have a team, a building full of lawyers. Each of them have actually teams like football teams worth of 10, 15, 20 people that are there to handle their taxes so that they don't pay a penny more than they have to. Just that's where all the loopholes come from. They do that with the loopholes so they don't have to pay, but they want you can't afford to have 15 accountants. You may not even be able to afford having one accountant, so they want you to pay more in taxes because you can't use the loopholes, but they get to use the loopholes and pay less in taxes than you do. Doesn't sound like they're being very fair, does it? But no one calls out Oprah for that. No one calls out Bill Gates for that. They call out Donald Trump and they pick on Elon Musk, but they don't pick out their own people. Should tell you something about that. Let me see here. Shelly says, it's all my good news side. On the good news side, our whole nation now knows what it's like to not be represented by Chuck Schumer, which is going to be a career ender for him. Well, I would like to think that, but it all depends on who's running against Chuck Schumer. If it's AOC, Chuck Schumer wins. If it's someone who's actually credible, maybe not. Chuck Schumer is old, and he hasn't had a lot of competition for a long time for the Senate race because he's just had so much money. No one's really bothered to try and take him on. It's just not worth it. You're not going to win. He has, $25 million sitting on the side at any moment. You have to have a lot of momentum and a lot of money already to be able to take on Chuck Schumer. AOC, she's got $7 million because she's been running around the nation with Bernie Sanders, and they're both selling out. And so she's raising up money by selling out with Bernie Sanders to try and see if she can take on Chuck Schumer or to run for president. And I don't think she's going to get, that's not enough money. $7 million for Chuck Schumer's seat, not enough money. She has to have at least $30 million to even consider trying to run against Chuck Schumer. And she would need she'd have to have about 50. She needs 50 million just to get into the presidential race, at least. But I could be wrong. Let's see. What is that? Shelly says, Mondami says he will go to Albany to fund his insanity. Yeah, Sleewood went to Albany once to protect Albany. Guess what? Mondami can go to anywhere he wants. He can go to hell. It doesn't really matter. But he can go to the United States federal government. Trump isn't going to give him the money. And he can go to Kathy Hochul. She's not going to give him the money. He can suggest that Kathy Hochul increases taxes for New York City, and she won't, and he won't get the money. He's not going to get the money. He doesn't want you to think about the consequences. It sounds good, and then when he doesn't have the money, he can then say, Orange Man bad, MAGA bad, Republicans bad, that's why he didn't get the money. So donate more to Mondami and vote progressive more, and then he'll get the money when he replaces all these evil right-wing MAGA people. New York State's a bluer than blue state. New York State is controlled since 1958 by Democrats. There hasn't been a Republican in a senior executive position in 22 years. We don't have a governor, a comptroller, a lieutenant governor. Republicans don't control this. So when he's going to be blaming and saying, oh my God, the New York State, I can't get the money and everything's falling apart, blame the Democrats. It's your own party. You are the ones who have control. You're the ones who created the problems over the last, 5 decades? Republicans don't have any control over this. We don't control any part of the government. You can't blame us for it. New York State, California, New Jersey, they're falling apart. Illinois, Boston, Massachusetts, Colorado, they're falling apart It's not Republicans' fault. We don't control the government. Democrats do. And Democrats have controlled the government depending on which state and or city you're talking about. We're talking about somewhere around between 15 years and 75 years of Democrat control. It's not Republicans' fault. But you're not supposed to think about that. You're just not supposed to think about that. I do think about that because I think it's important. I think it's very, very important. I wanted to do something a little different here. So let me switch over because I know most people probably were watching, most people in New York State and around the country, to be fair, were watching the debate between Mandami and Cuomo and Curtis Sliwa. And I think most people were bored because it's basically the same thing we saw before. But as I mentioned, I was watching two things at the same time. I was listening, I was reading the subtitles in the debate at the same time that I was listening to Matthew J. on the Matthew J. Show, also interviewing my good friend, Larry Sharpe. There we go. So I believe I have it queued up accurately here. And I just want you to hear a little bit. Now, you can go to the Matthew J. Show. You'll be able to see the entire interview. I know Larry Sharpe will get some clips from this, and you'll see it on his channel as well. But I think there was an interesting section in the debate. Now, mind you, and just to let everyone know, Matthew J. is a Republican. He is conservative. He is right of me. And I know many people will say, Mike, you're in the far. Some people think I'm far right. I'm not. I am a conservative. I'm a conservative Republican. Absolutely. I am right of center. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's fair to say, Matthew, I think, would agree that he is right of me. Now, again, I wouldn't call Matthew J. far right. I'm not. He's MAGA. He's America First. He has strong support for Donald Trump, even on issues that I don't support Trump on, Matthew J. does. So I'm trying to give you a context here because Sabby Sabs is very much a progressive, very much the far left. And Tuesday, we saw that Larry Sharpe did an interview with her for about an hour. And so he was speaking to the far left about why he was the best choice for New York. You will never see Kathy Hochul go online and talk to an unapproved podcast, someone who has 250,000 viewers, who's far left, who's an actual leftist, who's an actual progressive. She won't go on to that program. She won't. Larry Sharpe did. Today, Larry Sharpe went the exact opposite. He was talking to Matthew J., who is an absolutely part of the right, the exact opposite direction of what we saw yesterday. And he's talking to a Republican, someone firmly in the right, America First, MAGA individual, and he did an interview with him, which again, you will never see Kathy Hochul. She will never do an interview with someone who's on the right, who isn't approved, who isn't throwing her softballs. She will never do that. So what did Larry Sharpe say? And this is about 50 minutes into the interview.
The governor has 2 aircraft. I will sell one of them. And then when I sell, I'll then buy a bus and deck out a bus so that I can actually run the government out of a bus and travel across the state and actually run the government out of the bus as I travel across the state. Because I will need individual people to step up constantly. If people think I'm going to vote for Larry and go back to sleep and make something happen, that's not going to happen. You're going to vote for Larry and you're going to work with me so we can get stuff done. Because
now that's interesting because first of all, he's talking about reducing the cost of the governorship of New York. He says he's going to sell one of our planes, the helicopters, one of the planes of New York State, which is very expensive to upkeep and to maintain. We already have 2 of them. He's going to get one of them sold. Use a bus. Use a bus to travel the country, or excuse me, New York State, which is easy enough to do. I mean, 2 hours to one place, to any location. You got 2, 3, 4 hours to travel in any given direction. You can do that and run the government. That's not that hard. So that's less expensive for the citizens of New York State. He's saving us money. And he says he wants the public involved while he's governor. He's not saying, oh, well, I'm going to lead and everyone else will just follow me. He said, no, you got to work with me. He's looking for cooperation. He wants people to be involved. He wants you to be involved, not just politicians, you, real people, being involved and helping him to run the government. And so he can take the bus throughout his governorship to all the counties of New York continuously to stay connected to you, to know what your local issue is, to fix it. You don't usually hear that. That's a solution. That is a plan for a solution for the problems in New York State in each and every county. You don't hear that from Kathy Hochul. You won't hear that from Antonio Delgado. You're not going to hear that from Elise Stefanik. They don't make solutions like that. They don't have such a big and clear plan. That's the thing. When we're listening to Larry Sharpe, you may not like Larry Sharpe's solution for some of the problems. You may not like the way that he's going to save money for New York State. But he has a plan. He has a solution. This is one of the things that I'm very impressed about with my friend Larry. And I found it very interesting because he's on with a Republican who is very critical. Matthew J. is well up to date with the issues that are happening across this country. He has no problem pushing back. You've seen me on his program. He will push back against me, tell you that he disagrees with me. He will point out the things that he doesn't like or he thinks I've misunderstood. So he doesn't have a problem pushing back. He's not a fan of libertarianism. And we're listening to Larry Sharpe point out, here is my plan. You may not think it's perfect. You may not think it's the best plan, but he has an actual plan. Hochul doesn't. Elise Stefanik doesn't. It's one of the reasons why I support Larry Sharpe. Elise Stefanik doesn't have a plan. Elise Stefanik doesn't even know if she's going to run yet. Again, according to my inside sources, she's still 50-50. She doesn't know if she wants to run. She has no idea what plan she wants to put forward because she can't even figure out if she actually wants to run the race, if she wants to actually be involved in this. We don't know. The Republicans don't know if they're going to be dragging Mike Lawler into the governor's race, kicking and screaming because he doesn't want to do it. He does not want to run for governor. So I found it interesting. Larry is giving us solutions. Whether you like that solution or not is a different question. Than he's offering a solution that will save money and keep him connected and subordinate to the people, and no other candidate is doing that. None of them. I think that's important for you to have seen. And again, it's on the record. We got video in his own words.
We don't keep the pressure, it will fall right back to garbage. So, of course, everyone I can possibly get in that is going to get stuff done. If you're liberty leaning, you are welcome. You don't have to be libertarian, not required. You've got to be liberty leaning.
When have you ever heard a Republican candidate or a Democrat candidate or a progressive candidate who says you don't have to be a libertarian, you don't have to be part of their party, and you're welcome to help run the government? You look, I'm a Republican, and I want a lot of Republicans in government. I want to shrink the size of government, but of the shrunken government, I do want to see more Republicans in there. Absolutely. I think by and large, Republicans tend to have the best policies for how to deal with the issues we need to deal with. But I can also say that most Republicans candidates, even myself when I ran as a candidate, I can tell you, Republicans want to be surrounded by Republicans. We want Republicans in office. We want to be filled with, I'm a Republican. I want all the other Republicans in elected office with me. That's natural. And Democrats, same thing. They want to have all Democrats in all the offices and everyone around them making all the decisions. Democrats want more Democrats. The Democratic Socialists of America, the progressives, they want everyone in every office to be a progressive. Larry Sharpe, a libertarian, is telling us, I don't care. Are you the best person? That's meritocracy. And I got to tell you, it calls me out because I'm like, yeah, I want more Republicans. And Larry's like, Mike, you're into meritocracy. You believe in the best person for the job. He called me out on this. And again, I know Larry's personal friend. Called me out and said, remember, you're the one who's screaming about KBJ, the Supreme Court Justice Jackson, and how I'm upset that she's meritocracy. She is not the most meritorious Supreme Court justice. She's a DEI hire. Why would I have a different opinion when it comes to New York State? You want Republicans? Yes. But is that the best person? Maybe not. Maybe in some of the positions, the Republican isn't the best choice. And the only candidate that's willing to actually say, no, I'm going to stick by my words, the best person for the position, if that means they're a libertarian, if that means they're a Republican, if that means they're a Democrat, whoever's the best. I got to give it to him. He said that. And again, you're seeing it live here.
That's all I care about.
No, that's good. You sounded a lot like Jim Ostrowski. You kept saying liberty, liberty, liberty. Jim is really big on that. I have a couple other questions to ask you, and I'm going to actually, because obviously New York City, if you're going to be governor, if you're elected governor, would come into play. Are you comfortable with the National Guard operating the New York subways? Has that shown to be a deterrent for crime?
Generally speaking, no. But that doesn't matter. The point is, does the mayor want the National Guard? If the mayor wants the National Guard, I'm in. I
want you to think about that. So he has his opinion, and then he has the solution, because Larry believes in localism. He believes in local government dealing with the problems they need to deal with. He helps organize things. If as governor, he would help to organize and funnel the money and balance the books. Okay. And he just told you, and he's right. Having the National Guard in the subway did not make the subway safer. That is a fact. Kathy Hochul was like, I got in 750 National Guard, and a woman got burned alive. People got stabbed and shot the same week that she authorized the National Guard to be in the subway system, 750 National Guards. And people were still being shot. They were still being stabbed. People were set on fire. It didn't make anyone safe. It sounded like you were safe. And if you're one of the rich, yuppie progressives out there, you probably thought, oh, well, that means we're safe now. 750 National Guard in the subway. I'm safe. Yeah, until you got mugged or thrown in front of a train or got stabbed by someone who was homeless and mentally deficient, because that's what's happened. You're not safe. With the National Guard, you're not safe. Not in the least. It changed nothing. And Larry knows that. I know that. Larry knows that. Larry lives in New York as well. He lives in Queens. He knows. He's on the subway on a regular basis, just as I am. He knows it didn't make anyone safe. But his answer was, but that's not important. Because even though he has his opinion, if he's governor, he has to listen to the mayor. And if the mayor says he wants it, he's good for it. You just heard him say that. It's up to the mayor. Let's hear more about that.
I want to assist the mayor and what the mayor thinks is best. I believe in localism. In my vision is a most localized government I can possibly get. Local people being policed how they want to be policed. Local people getting national guard if they want it or don't. Local people deciding on how many cops they want in their neighborhoods, lots or little. I want local people police themselves as best they can. I want sheriffs to have more power. Remember, sheriffs are very valuable. Sheriffs are the ones who are elected. They can say no. They can push away. They can say, no, I'm not doing what the governor says. I'm elected. You can't get rid of me. Police forces are kind of, they're stuck to do whatever their DAs think. Here's the other problem people don't realize. People will often blame cops when they should be blaming DAs. Cops respond.
Yep. He's got a good point there. Now, I'm not going to play the entire conversation between Matthew J. and Larry Sharpe. You can go and check it out for yourself. I'll put a link in there in the description. But I wanted you to hear, because I think that discussion was more interesting and it has more solutions than listening to the debate, to listening to the New York City mayoral debate. There were fewer answers and less consequences considered in the New York City mayoral race than listening to Larry Sharpe talking about his governor run. So I found that to be interesting, and I wanted to share that with you guys. So let me see here. Yeah. All right. I think that kind of covers everything I wanted to speak about tonight. I've been running around a lot myself. I have an event there's a Curtis Sliwa event in Brooklyn tomorrow. I will be going to that. Yesterday, I was at Lehman College talking to the TV program, the Back Room TV. I was there in August, and they invited me back. We had a very good show in August. A lot of people were very happy to see that on Bronx Net Community TV, public access. And a lot of people saw that and they were very impressed and very happy to see the conversation in August. So they invited me back. And we taped it yesterday. So I can't tell you what we taped, what we discussed, but I thought it was a really good, another good show. Great conversation with the hosts, Lisa and David. I think they had a great conversation with me, talking about the issues that are affecting us. And I think it will be relevant before the 2025 election. It should be out on November. I think it'll be out on November 4th. Will be just in time for people to go out in person and to vote. And we'll be talking about that election and how it's going to affect people here in New York and across the country as well, across the state, across the nation, but specifically in New York. And I think people will find that to be of interest and worthwhile. I hope you guys will check that out. So it's been a busy week for me, a lot of things going on. Tomorrow I'm running around again. Next Saturday, I'm going to be down at Pier 26 at about 12:30-ish. About 12:30-ish, I will be in Lower Manhattan at Pier 26 at about 12:30. So let me know if you plan to be down in that area. You can say hello, hang out with me. I have taking some photos for a client, so it'll be interesting. Yes, I still do consulting work whenever I can. So that's one of the things I'm doing this weekend. But I'll be happy to say hello to everybody. If you're going to be down by Pier 26 in Manhattan at about 12:30 in the afternoon on Saturday, the 26th, let me know, and we can maybe hang out. Get a beer. And you can tell me how well you think the show is. You can tell me how great you think the background is. I look forward to hearing your comments there. But with all of that said, it's just about 10 o'clock and I'm a little bit tired. So what I'm going to do is we're going to end the show here. I will be back, of course, later this week with more short videos and more content. And of course, we have the Sunday live stream, which is at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every week. We've been doing it for 8 years now. And I really appreciate that you guys are part of the process, being part of the audience. I love getting your feedback, whether you agree with me or not. That's perfectly fine. I do appreciate hearing all of your voices. And please, if you've made it this far on a Wednesday in the middle of the week, please like, share, subscribe. That's it. Just hit that subscribe button. It really makes a big difference in my life. It costs you nothing, and it makes a big difference for me. So I will appreciate that. And thank you, Shelly, by the way. Shelly's like, Mike, did a great show. Sometimes I can't tell if I'm having a good show or not. I just got to be honest. It's the hard part of the job. Sometimes I'm like, I hope everyone enjoyed it. I hope I made sense, but I can't tell. It's very difficult when I'm unscripted. It's not like I have a script. So it's me just talking with you guys and reacting to your comments and reacting to the news and talking with you about it. So I don't know sometimes. So thank you for letting me know that, Shelly. I do truly appreciate that. And I do appreciate everybody. Just hit the like button if you can. If you want to join my Patreon, it's $1.50 a month. I would appreciate that. It's not required. It's not obligated. It's $1.50 a month. But if you don't have the money for it, or you think I haven't earned it, perfectly fine. I respect that. That's okay. But just hit the like button, the subscribe button. You know what? It costs nothing. All right, folks. I'm going to take off. I think I got to walk my dog as well. I thought I heard him just a little bit ago. We'll talk again very, very soon. I'll give you the exact date for my interview with Larry Sharpe, which should be before the end of this month. I'll be talking with Larry Sharpe. I will give you more information about that once I have the exact date of our interview. I will make sure you get that. But until then, folks, I thank you. I appreciate you. I want you to have a great day. Shelly says, I like that you switch topics seamlessly and make great points and moved on to the next topic. I try. It's a lot of practice. I wasn't always as good at doing that and segueing from one thing to the next. Wasn't always very good at that. Lots of practice. Thank you for being here to help me to get that practice. Thank you, Shelly. And I also want to thank Kaiwan. I want to thank Dal. I want to thank Joel. They all were in the comments. You may have noticed them already. I thank everybody who is part of my Patreon and are supporting this channel, and the people who've donated on PayPal. I have not forgotten about any of you guys. I thank you all for your support, big and small. You all matter to me. Whether you're the audience or whether you're a Patreon or anything else, I appreciate each and every one of you. But guys, it's Wednesday. It's hump day. Go and get some sleep. We're almost done with the week. It's almost the weekend. Get some rest. I'll tell you soon what I think of the event of Curtis Lewa in Brooklyn. I'm looking forward to seeing what his reaction was to the debate. I'll talk to you guys again soon.